So something that happens when you move to a completely new environment is that you have to start everything from square one, from buying new furniture and toiletries to making new friends, and the list goes on and on. But moving can be an opportunity for growth and change. It's essentially a clean slate. I truly believe that the environment you are in has a great impact on you, for better or for worse. But moving, see, that's the part that sucks. When I moved into my new apartment, I was mentally, physically, and just emotionally wiped. I definitely underestimated how I would feel and how much time I would need to recover. The state that I was in was constantly feeling drowsy and fatigued and just not able to do anything that I wanted to do. Basically, I was burnt out. It's like when you try to initiate a task and your mind just blocks you from having any motivation to do it. So I asked myself, when am I ever going to be adjusted to this new life? It was only then that I started to notice something interesting. I noticed that although I wasn't actively doing the things such as exploring the city and trying all the new restaurants and going all to cool places and bars, it wasn't that I wasn't doing anything at all. In fact, I noticed that I started to default back to the routines that I built. So, for example, exercising 6 times a week, or keeping track of my macros and my nutrition, or doing my weekly accountability check-ins with my friend. But there were some habits that I recently started building when I was back in DC that I wasn't able to be consistent with. So, for example, reading an hour a day or making a long-form weekly video. Matter of fact, when I thought about it, this was actually a huge struggle that I've had my whole entire life. I just didn't know why certain habits stuck with me and why some haven't. For example, I wasn't able to stick to any study habit throughout high school and college. Or I told myself I would wake up at 6 a.m. every morning just to be more productive. See, most of these habits that I tried to work on only lasted around a week to maybe 3 months max, just out of pure discipline. In general, I struggle with being consistent with anything I did because I just wouldn't feel like doing it, or I would be too bored and I didn't want to feel like a robot. However, there were some habits that stuck with me throughout my whole entire life, like brushing my teeth before bed, or showering every day, or making sure I look somewhat presentable before I go out. So why have certain habits stuck with me and some haven't? It was only until my friend pointed out the explanation to this phenomenon, referencing James Clear's Atomic Habits. James Clear introduces the concept between goals and systems. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. So for example, I want to lose 100 pounds, or I want to be a millionaire, or I want to get straight A's. However, systems are about the processes that lead to those results. So what habits do people have that have successfully lost weight? Or what study habits do students with straight A's have? Or what habits do millionaires have that have contributed to their success? So why do we fail to keep some habits? Well, James has a clear explanation on this. He says that if you're having trouble changing your habits, the problem isn't you. The problem is your system. Bad habits repeat themselves again and again, not because you don't want to change, but because you have the wrong system for change. So according to Clear, if you're not able to achieve the results you wanted, it's because you have the wrong system in place, which leads to the failure to keep the habit. He emphasizes the importance of system-oriented mindset rather than a goal-oriented mindset. And Clear mentions problems with goal-oriented mindsets. Here are some that stood out to me. The first thing he mentions is that achieving a goal is only a momentary change. Let's say you decide to clean your dirty room and you clean your room for that day. But if you still have untidy habits, your room will always be messy. You see, Clear addresses this issue as you treated a system without addressing the cause. Achieving a goal only changes your life for the moment. When you solve the problems at the result level, you only solve them temporarily. In order to improve for good, you need to solve problems at the systems level. So, in other words, cleaning your dirty room once isn't going to magically make you a tidy person. You've got to tackle what is causing the dirty room in the first place and create the habit from there. The second thing he mentions is that goals restrict your happiness. We always tell ourselves, once I reach my goal, then I'll be happy. We tell ourselves we're only allowed to be happy once we've achieved our goal. I cannot tell you how many times I kept this mindset, not allowing myself to be happy until I found success, only to give up halfway through. I fell victim to this a lot when I was young, and whenever I gave up, I categorized that as a failure and made it part of my identity. I labeled myself as the guy who couldn't do math, or the guy who didn't have enough endurance so he could never be a winger, or the guy who always choked on tests. See, putting on these labels was a double-edged sword at the time, because it helped me narrow down my options, but it also created a huge insecurity for me on the fact that I couldn't do the things I labeled myself as, because I just thought I wasn't good enough. However, Clear states that when you fall in love with the process rather than the product, you don't have to wait to give yourself permission to be happy. Yeah, I know. This is a hard concept to wrap your head around because it definitely was for me. See, it's difficult because most of us don't allow ourselves to be happy until we found success. However, if you focus on processes rather than goals, then you understand that to get the results you want is more of a journey rather than a means to an end. The last thing I want to mention is that goals are at odds with long-term progress. Most of the time, once you achieve the goal that you set, you stop whatever habits you've created throughout that time. Clear calls this the yo-yo effect. Basically, there is no motivation to continue those habits because you've already achieved your goal. He says that the purpose of setting goals is to win the game. The purpose of building systems is to continue playing the game. Basically, this goes back to goals being a means to an end and systems being more of a lifestyle and part of your identity. Throughout my life, I put these labels on myself, essentially limiting myself because I couldn't produce the results that I wanted. However, I realized I couldn't get the results I wanted, not because I was stupid or hopeless, but because I just didn't have a good system in place. Once you focus on building systems rather than goals, you can literally become unstoppable. You can learn anything you want. Having this understanding made me realize how important it is for us to have introspection and to communicate with ourselves on why things work and why things don't work. It's not about whether or not you can do it, but asking yourself whether or not it's the right investment for you at the time. No one is truly brilliant at something right off the bat. It takes a lot of time and effort to create habits and eventually become part of your identity. So whether it's picking new habits or picking up old ones, think about some labels that you put on yourself and genuinely ask yourself why you put them on in the first place. You'd be surprised how capable you actually are. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed today's video, click the like button, and if you like more content like this, click subscribe. See you next time.